The fact that Hector was arrested caused quite a stir among the members of the Harmon family. Everyone was rushed off their feet, using whatever connections they had to prove Hector innocent. Hector was the patriarch of the Harmons, he represented the family. If he was really charged with murder, not only would he be ruined, but the whole Harmon family would also be terribly criticized by the public. After giving out the order, Natasha called some of the trustworthy people to her room to discuss the countermeasures. Not everyone in the family stood on the same side. Trent and Jacob harbored their own thoughts. She naturally didn't trust them. "What do you think about this matter?" Natasha asked, glancing around. Could it be that Dad got sloshed for real, so Ruth trailed off. Before Ruth saw the video, she was sure that her father was not the kind of person who would commit such a crime. However, now that the evidence was right before her eyes, she couldn't help but doubt his innocence. "Your dad is well aware of his alcohol tolerance level. But why did he drink so much this time that he couldn't even remember what he did after that?" Jessica's expression didn't look good. "Ms. Natasha, saving Mr. Harmon is what's most important right now," Jack said worriedly. It was going to be hard for Hector to clear his name anytime soon. Hence, keeping him safe and sound for now was their top priority. "Dustin, what do you think?" Natasha looked at him. "I don't think it's a coincidence that this matter happens at this time. Your dad is probably being set up by others," Dustin replied. Ruth furrowed her brows. "That's what we hope too, but all the evidence is directed at Dad. No one will believe us. Sometimes, what we see might not be the truth, so we mustn't just look on the surface," Dustin said, shaking his head. "You've gotten a clue?" Natasha asked. "Those who have been around will know that there's a special skill in this world, which is called face-changing art. I suspect that someone has impersonated your dad and committed the crime." "Face-changing art?" The rest of them exchanged glances with one another, shocked by Dustin's words. "Remember the Dark Lord's disciple who showed up at the annual gathering that day? She had used face-changing art to disguise herself as Celeste," Dustin explained. "That's right. When she escaped, I think she left behind a human face mask," Ruth said. "That is to say, Hector might be framed for real." Jessica's eyes brightened. Although they knew nothing much about face-changing art, this speculation was their only hope at the moment. "Are you saying that the Dark Lord is behind this?" Natasha's expression turned cold. This wasn't just about dirtying Hector's good name, it was also about ruining the reputation of the Harmons and bringing the family to the brink of collapse. "What a merciless move," Natasha muttered inwardly. "It's possible, but there's also someone who we mustn't leave out," Dustin reminded. "Who?" Natasha narrowed her eyes. "Tyler." Dustin's voice was flat. "He was rejected at the annual gathering. Judging from how the Grant family conducts themselves, it's impossible for them to gloss over the matter." "Seriously?" Ruth frowned in thought. The Grant family is one of the top 3 most prominent families. It's impossible for them to do something like this. Moreover, framing my father won't bring them any benefits. It's just my guess. If we want to catch the culprit, it'd be best to investigate from here as a start," Dustin said. "Jack, get the shadow guards to look into these immediately." Natasha gave the order directly. "Noted." Jack obeyed and left in a hurry. Right then, a glint of silver light surged from the window all of a sudden and landed fiercely on the wall. It wasn't until they had taken a closer look that they realized it was a silver hairpin with a piece of paper attached to it. "Miracle Doctor, I know who the culprit is. Come alone to Lilirius Restaurant tonight at 8 p.m. See you then." The note was signed off by someone called Azalea. "Azalea?" Natasha arched her brow. "Do you know her?" "If I guessed it right, it was her who disguised herself as Celeste," Dustin said. The fragrance lingering on the silver hairpin was exactly the same as that of the woman from that day. "It's her." Natasha frowned slightly. "Could it be she's the one behind this?" "We'll know more about it after I meet up with her tonight." Dustin narrowed his eyes. Since that person had invited him out, it was clear that she must have known something. This woman is full of guile and good at using poison. "Do you think this is a trap?" Natasha was worried. "Don't worry. Even if it's a lion's den, I'll be able to come out unscathed. Dustin smiled faintly. No, it's too dangerous for you to go alone. I'll send a group of shadow guards to protect you, Natasha said with a solemn expression. The Dark Lord's disciple was nowhere near kind. Natasha didn't want Dustin to risk his life. With how insistent she was, Dustin didn't refuse her anymore. Okay. As a retro-style restaurant, Lilirius Restaurant was usually lively. However, it seemed surprisingly deserted that night. After getting out of the car, Dustin entered the restaurant and looked around. There was no customer. He casually chose a seat next to the window and enjoyed his drink while waiting for Azalea to show up. Quick! Go and catch the person inside. At that time, several SUVs roared and pulled up outside the restaurant. Equipped with weapons, a group of black-clad, masked men got out of the cars and rushed into the place fiercely. When the man in the lead saw Dustin, he took several steps forward and jammed his machete into the table. "You're Dustin?" Stephen Lewis asked maliciously. "You've been following me for half an hour. You can't possibly still not know who I am, can you?" Dustin held his cup, looking calm. He had sensed that he was being watched the moment he stepped out of the Harmon residence. However, instead of alerting the other party, he kept quiet about it to see who was behind it. Stephen smirked. "You've got some guts. I didn't expect you to be so composed. Who are you? What do you want to do?" Dustin demanded. "I heard that you have the flower of crimson gem. Hand it over, and I'll spare your life today," Stephen said. He had been keeping a close watch over the Harmon residence for 2 days to catch him. "Flower of crimson gem? You're someone from the Grant family?" Dustin raised his eyebrow. Only a few people knew that he had the flower, and Jayla was one of them. "Me? Cut the crap. Are you giving or not?" Stephen's face darkened. "No." Dustin gulped down his drink. "Then, you're just asking for death." Stephen flew into a rage and was about to launch an attack on Dustin. Right then, a charming female voice floated across the air. "Have you asked for my permission to make a scene at my place?" When everyone looked over, they saw a veiled woman in skimpy clothes slowly descending the stairs. Although her face couldn't be seen clearly, her body figure was extremely hot and seductive, well-developed breasts, curvy buttocks, and a slim waist. She looked like a masterpiece, especially when she walked with her hips wiggling, exuding her alluring charm. The groupo of men in black were stunned. With their eyes lit up, they couldn't help but swallow their saliva repeatedly.